Ladies and gentlemen, here are the full practice update numbers for August 17th, 2023. Here we go. Ready? You tell me what this means. Brock Purdy, 27 reps, all with the first team. 14 of 20. Pretty good. 70%.
He's the starter. There's my one-sentence answer.
Okay. Next, Trey Lance went 3 for 3 with 4 reps. 4.
Okay.
Sam Darnold had 13 reps. Now, he went 1 of 7 with those reps, but Sam Darnold, 13 reps. Trey Lance, 4.
It makes me think just initially, it's one of two things. Are they getting Darnold ready because he's likely to be the starter on Saturday against the Broncos, so he's going to get more reps. This is their last full practice before that game on Saturday night. The other thought is, are they already starting to maybe shift toward Darnold being a little bit ahead? And that means he's going to start getting more of the reps.
Well, you made the point yesterday that Kyle Shanahan's made a real point about everything being like kind of equal. Correct me if I'm wrong, no practice tomorrow?
No, but they have their usual, I think,
like a walkthrough.
They have their walkthrough that the media will not
So you're
be
not
at.
going to get a chance to like spin that back in the other direction. Like Trey gets 13 tomorrow and Sam only gets 4. They're not going to get a chance to do that until after they play again.
Right.
And you feel like, and this has not been announced, right, Grandy? Like they have not announced Sam Darnold as starting Saturday's game. You just said they've sort of indicated.
Kyle Shanahan said yesterday that's the plan, but he reserves the right to change it.
Yeah. He also, it was part of that was he hadn't decided if Purdy was going to play or not yet, or some of the ones were going to play or not.
Got it.
That factored in as well.
Well, I mean, we head into Saturday with some interesting questions.
Yeah, and he won't speak again until after the game.
And those of you who might be wondering, Brandon Allen, 0 reps. Now, that's been the case all week. However, the last 2 days is because he was excused for personal reasons. I feel like I read that he was maybe having a baby.
Which I can confirm.
Can confirm. Today, I do not see 0 reps for personal reasons. I just see 0 reps.
Yeah, an indicator that he would be back. I don't independently know that, obviously, for being here. But the thought was, are they shifting this thing toward Darnold a little bit? And then the extension of that is, well, did they start to give Darnold a little more, and he
didn't do well with it.
1
for 7.
Does that, and how much does that factor into, all right, opening the door potentially for Trey still?
Okay.
Which I think is still ajar.
The door open.
I do think it's still ajar.
I agree with that. All right, so let's get out to you at 888-957-9570. And again, the question that we're asking, fandom in sports usually comes from production. And so whether it's good or bad, there has barely even been any games played by Trey Lance. So this intense fandom that a portion of the 49er fan base seems to have, where did it come from? What is it based on? When, why, how, all of that. Ken in the city, you're on with Willard and JD. Hey, Ken, thanks for calling.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
What's up?
The thing that excited me about Trey Lance so much was his potential of explosiveness in the passing game. And I believe that some were calling Trevor Lawrence a bust after his first team. And now he's looked at as an MVP candidate. Also, Bill Walsh developed his game plans according to the strengths of each of his players and then incorporated it into a system. Mike Shanahan is not Bill Walsh, and I don't think that he has the ability to think outside the box, whatever you want to call it, the Shanahan offense, the Shanahan box, or whatever you like to. But I think that, and I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence, but I think that there probably are some 5-star high school athletes that can compete on the same level that you're getting from Brock Purdy, really honestly.
Wow. You had me for a while, and boy, I couldn't disagree more with a couple of the statements there at the end, Ken, which, thank you for calling. I respectfully disagree. I think that is wildly dismissive to Brock Purdy or anybody who achieves anything in professional sports. With all due respect, I went to college with a guy who played at 1AA as like a special teamer, and we had a conversation one time, and he's like, you know what? If I dedicated myself and I had all the resources and this, that, and the other, do I think I could play special teams in the NFL? Yeah, I do. And we looked at him and went, dude, get another beer.
You're crazy.
You got to be. Like, do you all really think that you can just go play professional sports if you have athletic ability? Do you know how many people have unbelievable athletic ability and cannot make it at the pros? There are a billion things that go into it. So the idea that there are people in high school who could go 8-0 and take a team to the NFC title game I think is ludicrous. Also, the idea that Kyle Shanahan is not adaptable, like he tried to put a game plan together for Trey Lance. It didn't work all that well, as we know, in Chicago and Seattle. But if you go through the career history of Kyle Shanahan, I think to say that he has a box and every quarterback needs to fit into it is inaccurate. Like, provably inaccurate when you look at the different quarterbacks, different teams, different styles that he's had. I'm not saying he's Bill Walsh, but yes, like every coach, he tries to tailor a game plan to his people.
He's been able to figure it out, and there are examples, whether it's RG3 or Kirk Cousins. I mean, those are the primary. Garoppolo's game's a little bit different, I think, than both of theirs. You look at what Brock Purdy's brought. I do think that is. I do think that is part of the fans' gripe, though, is that hey, he's the number 3 pick. Why can't you make it right? Why can't you make it right?
I think that is part of their gripe, but I just think there's so many holes in that. Number 2 pick can't play either.
Well,
and they went and got Aaron Rodgers.
It's also
is anybody saying that in New York? Hey,
well,
Rob.
Yeah.
Rob, why can't you turn the key and make Zach Wilson good?
No.
No one's saying that.
Nobody's saying that, but
no one's dying to see him play.
There's no quarterback offensive genius guru type guy.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody's got a coach. Everybody's got a coordinator. You know what I mean?
I think it's just the notion of make the super talented, like maximize that guy. Because if you can maximize that guy, then you're going to win multiple championships, or be in position to win multiple championships.
I guess that just goes to the question we were asking earlier this week with regard to, like, when a high-level draft pick does not succeed, do you blame the player or do you blame the development of the team? I tend to, and again, blame's the wrong word. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough. But when you get to the professional level, to me, I'm going to skew every time toward the player. I mean, the idea that because he's number 3 pick, you should be able to make him work suggests that there would never be a bust draft pick in the history of the league. If he's top 5, just make him look top 5.
Sure. I think the other part of it is the way that they traded up. In that, and it's been widely reported now, they traded up without even having a guy. Right? Like, they traded up.
Which, if that's true, is weird.
Like, they traded up wanting to guarantee, and Kyle said that on the record.
Yeah.
Like, they traded up wanting to be in a position to where they knew they were going to have their pick of 3 of the 5. And you knew who was going 1, and you really kind of knew who was going 2.
Yeah.
So you wanted the ability to control the room as far as Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. And so I think there's a frustration level in play there that comes from the fact that it's like, well, wait a minute, you didn't, like, if you don't know the guy that you want, well, then part of that is you're supposed to be good enough to be able to make it work with any of the 3.
And that I get.
3 differently skilled quarterbacks,
totally.
Too. Justin Fields is very different than Trey Lance, is very different than Mac Jones.
I guess if your answer to my question is that you hate the pick, you hate the 49er process of making it, you hate the way they went about it, I understand all of those things. I'm trying to figure out why so many people, instead of saying that, like, criticize the 49ers because you made a bad pick or you had a bad process, but instead you've sold yourself that Trey's amazing. And the only reason he's not is because, A, the 49ers have something against him or they've developed him incorrectly. There is a blind fandom that in my life I've usually seen is reserved for players who've done things on fields and on courts that make people fall in love with them. But this is not that. There's this fandom and just convinced narrative that Trey is really good without anybody having any proof of that. And in fact, the same people who will say, oh, he's barely played, even in college. Right. So what are you a fan of? I don't even know what there is to sink your teeth into.
Potential.
And that goes to the disappointment. We didn't get to see
tools.
Tools.
Strong arm.
Yeah.
Big body.
Yeah.
Ability to move, which is not as much of a thing.
Not what you thought it was.
I know Tim Kawakami wrote about this, and it had been stated the last year. I think it was really apparent last year at this time, the fact that Trey Lance can't run outside.
Like Trey Lance, to the edge.
Trey Lance can't run out like that. And I think the 49ers misevaluated in that respect.
Absolutely.
Like I think they thought at worst they had somebody that they could run a Kaepernick style offense with, and he could be gaining chunk yards, 7 a pop on the edge, faking the handoff and taking it around the end. And Trey wasn't fast enough to do it.
Nope.
I think I can add something here. I think for me personally, I don't know how most Niner fans feel, but for me, my belief in Trey Lance, which has certainly waned recently, it's because I have just a ton of belief in Kyle Shanahan. And I tend to believe that the decisions that he makes are the right ones, are the good ones, are well thought out. And because he's never going to come out and say, oh, we made a mistake, Trey Lance just isn't a good quarterback. Without him saying that, I think there's a big portion of the Niner fan base who still feel like Kyle Shanahan actually believes in this guy. And if you believe in Kyle Shanahan and you still feel like he believes in Trey Lance, then naturally you can still believe in Trey Lance.
That's all very interesting, for sure. But again, I think you are in the minority of the Trey Lance fandom, if you will, Grandy, just because what I hear mostly, if you're a Trey Lance fan, what many of the Trey Lance fans will say right now is, well, Kyle's an idiot. Kyle, like, why is it going this way? Either because you made the pick or you won't develop, and now here's the list of all the quarterback decisions that he's made in the past that have gone wrong. So if it's because of total faith in Kyle Shanahan, that I understand more. But then I guess my response to you would be, are you watching what Kyle did originally when he made the pick, or are you watching everything he's done since? Because my response to you would be that his behavior since the pick has suggested, other than his words, that he's not a huge believer in Trey Lance.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I just think maybe there's, in order for widespread opinion to change within the Niners fan base, and this is something that you guys talked about earlier in the week, I think you've talked about it with Dibs as well, not like an apology, but just some, official notice from the Niners that, hey, this didn't work out, and that would allow everyone to move on. I'm not saying that they should ever do that.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Well, that would come in the form of a trade.
Right. Because if you did that,
or him being the number 3,
does anyone understand how awful that would be for Trey? That'd be the most embarrassing day of his life. Some sort of a public statement by the Niners, like, well, mess that up.
Well, again, it's
like that sounds demoralizing.
That statement is coming though, within probably the next 2 weeks, unless he outplays Sam Darnold over the course of the next 2 weeks. The statement's coming. Whether he's the 3. I think him being the 3 makes that statement.
The behavior's already been there. That statement's already been made.
Him being traded would obviously
be a
make
bigger
that
statement.
Would make that statement.
Yeah. But I mean, their statement has been made in re-signing Jimmy. Their statement has been made in running Trey Lance up the middle. Their statement has been made in starting Brock Purdy and announcing him as the starter when his elbow was detached. Their statement has been made in signing Sam Darnold. Their statement, right?
But that doesn't mean they don't think Trey Lance can be good. Like you can think Trey Lance can be good. Like part
I don't think he's good right now.
Well, not now. No, that's and they're in a championship window. I mean that statement has been made. I mean Kyle Shanahan may sit down at night and think, he's like, he's just so far away. Like I do think he can be good, but he has to play. And he's not going to play here because we're trying to win a title, and we have Brock Purdy who's better. And now I think Sam Darnold's better. Like it's unfair, and I think Kyle's addressed it. It's unfair because of the circumstances, not because of how he's been treated, but because of the circumstances that haven't allowed him to play when the 49ers have intended to play him in the past, because they have intended to play him. Last year, they intended to, I think, at least give him half a season, or close to it, to try and develop, and then we'll see what would have happened. But there's a difference to me between believing that he is not capable of being an NFL quarterback ever and just not the guy that helps this team win right now.
I agree with you there. I just don't know how relevant it is to the 49ers what anybody thinks Trey will be 3 years from now. It's kind of irrelevant. Contract's going to be up. Nobody's got that kind of time to sit around. If Brock Purdy is who they think he is, it's kind of an irrelevant question.
It is.
Right?
No, I don't disagree with that. It just and if Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback, then it's also okay that they like it because whatever Trey Lance wasn't, Brock Purdy is at that point, and you can to me that should make it easier to move on than if Trey Lance couldn't play right now and you couldn't win with him right now and you had no other options, or you were trying to throw Sam Darnold in as a think of how many teams do the Trey Lance. You draft a guy, he plays. Let's just say he plays.
Yeah.
He's not very good. Then you bring in the veteran Darnold. Think of how many times over the course of NFL history there's been a drafted quarterback that struggled. He gets into year 3. Then you bring in that veteran guy to compete.
You bring in the placeholder. Yep.
You bring in that veteran guy to compete, and that veteran guy either wins the job outright and isn't that good, or he doesn't win the job, and then middle of the year he winds up going in because the young quarterback, and in the young quarterback a lot of times it's just done. The Niners would be in a really bad position right now if that's what was going on. We'd look at this. They have a guy who's shown that he can play at a really high level. Now, can he extend it over a full season? We don't know the answer to that, but the fact that Brock Purdy's around should allow for the rest of this to be a little calmer, at least.
Yeah.